We're here to talk about Italian gangster films.
Hey there, everyone. This is Jeff, aka 101Bronson, bringing you something different today, and where I, in this video, sort of want to give a quick sort of history and overview of a certain genre, and sort of want to make a sort of gateway for people to try and get into it, because it's a genre that I really enjoy a hell of a lot. There's a lot of great kick-ass action films in this genre and this sort of subgenre, namely the Eurocrime genre from the early to mid sort of 70s, which is also known as the Italian crime genre, spaghetti crime. Of course, we had spaghetti westerns, there's spaghetti crime as well. And another name for this, the poliziotteschi genre. But I prefer the more simpler sort of Eurocrime bracket to put it under. So yeah, I was inspired to do this video because of a stream I did recently on our anniversary stream of the Talking Movie series with Dan and Carlos, and we had special guest Scott and Nige Rugard 2004 on, which fantastic stream. If you guys haven't seen, check it out. A little self plug. But had a great time, and actually the subject of Eurocrimes did come up on that stream, and I was like, I got something here as inspiration for a video. My light bulb went off. I was like, I should do a video on that because not too many people, even though the genre has really become popular over the years, over the more recent years, there's still not enough popularity for me. So that's why this video. Kick-ass cop, crime, gangster films of the 1970s produced and made on Italian soil by, mostly Italian directors and stuff like that, and Italian actors. Even though, like the spaghetti western genre before it, you had international casts in these films, but the majority of film, they have a lot of more Italian influences, as opposed to the spaghetti westerns. And about that, a little quick history, like I said. So the Italian filmmaking of this sort of the 50s, 60s, and 70s, I guess, they always sort of moved in fads, right? So they had, movies, mostly from American soil, American movies that were hugely popular, that they took inspiration from. Like in the early 60s, late 50s, early 60s, you had the sort of the Hercules movies, the gladiator films, your Spartacus, Hercules, Steve Reeves. And the Italians saw that and were like, we can do that. So the Italians had their own sort of genre of sword and sandal and peplum. Peplum is the name of the genre in Italian, the peplum genre. They had their own gladiator films that they made until that ran out of steam, and they looked for the next genre. They looked at westerns from America and were like, hey, we can do that. So they made the spaghetti westerns. And of course, that went on and on and on. And they made 600 and 700 spaghetti westerns. 1968, I think there were like 70 spaghetti westerns in that year alone, which I think was the pinnacle of the genre. Was 1968, was like the busiest year. Until in the early 70s, the westerns ran out of steam, and they, what did they do when they run out of steam? They try and do something else to keep the genre going, and they made the comedy westerns, and this is a trend that will repeat itself with all these genres that they do. When nothing else works, they're going to go comedy. But then, yeah, early 70s, Hollywood, puts out some amazing films in the early part of the 70s. Well, for the most part of the 70s, but for this video, we'll just take the early part of the 70s. And even, the late 60s, little known Steve McQueen film called Bullet comes out. In the 70s, we have The French Connection coming out, Dirty Harry coming out, and another one that's big and highly influential for this genre in particular, The Godfather from 1972. So the Italians looked at all these films that I just mentioned and more. And even in America, this sparked a, urban, cop sort of genre, where Clint Eastwood obviously did all the Dirty Harry sequels and stuff, Charles Bronson, a few cop movies. Even in America, this sparked a bit of a thing, but the Italians really ran with this in particular, and they were like, oh, these crime films are amazing. We can do that as well. So basically, that's how the Eurocrime genre sort of was created and birthed, even though there were crime films in Italy made, of course, in the 60s, but these in the 70s, the poliziotteschi films, they really, take inspiration from the American counterparts like The French Connection, Godfather, Dirty Harry. Also, Death Wish is another one that was highly influential for this genre. So, with that having been said, I'm going to recommend some Eurocrime films and talk about some of the actors and directors in this genre. But first, as your first sort of taste of Eurocrime, before you go and watch a film, I have this box set right here, the German Eurocrime set, which has 3 Eurocrime films with Maurizio Merli and one with George Hilton. That's it. George Hilton for Giallo fans, which is another, of course, famous genre in Italy. For the Giallo fans among us, you might know George Hilton. He's done quite a few of those films. But in this set, the reason I brought this set out and have it there on display is because that includes the excellent 2-hour documentary made by Mike Malloy on the Eurocrime genre, simply titled Eurocrime. Now, you can get that documentary in this set, or you can also get a separate release of it. And I do highly recommend that documentary. It's one of my favorite documentaries on the subject of films of a certain genre. I think that's an excellent documentary. A lot of people are interviewed in it. Henry Silva, who was also in a lot of the Italian crime films, Franco Nero, Luke Miranda, John Saxon. So just some of the people that were highly involved within this genre are interviewed in that documentary, and I highly, highly recommend that documentary before you go and watch a film of the Eurocrime genre. That having been said, yeah, you can find it in that box set or in a separate release, and you may or may not find it on YouTube. But you didn't hear that from me. But that having been said, if you are gonna go, just if you're like, okay, Jeff, I believe you that this genre, there's something to it. Recommend me a film. Come on. Well, in that case, I will recommend. Now, fans of my channel in particular, I think this is the absolute perfect film as an introduction to the genre because it stars the actor where my channel is based on, Charles Bronson. This is a proper film to really introduce people to the genre. This is a great early 70s Eurocrime film entitled Violent City, directed by Sergio Slima, starring Charles Bronson, Telly Savalas, Jill Ireland. Now, this film, when it came out in America, just goes to show you how it goes back. There's the alternate cover, by the way. Just goes to show you how it goes back to the American films. This was what the film was advertised as and called in America when it came out. The Family. If you notice the font, it's the font that they also use for The Godfather. And of course, The Family, The Godfather. So yeah, it just goes to show you, like, they make these movies and then they come find a way back to America and they market it, yeah, to sort of capitalize on the popular crime film. But yeah, Violent City, directed by Sergio Slima with a fantastic score by the maestro Ennio Morricone, who also, just like with the spaghetti westerns, did a lot of great soundtracks for this genre as well. And this is probably my favorite. I love this soundtrack by Morricone. So yeah, as a first introduction, for those that really have no experience to the genre whatsoever, Sergio Slima's Violent City. Speaking of Sergio Slima, if you do like this film, I also recommend, from the same director, the Eurocrime film Revolver, starring Oliver Reed and Fabio Testi, with another excellent Ennio Morricone score. I actually do have the CD soundtrack for this one as well by Morricone. Again, easily to get. I think you can still get this edition. You can get different editions. It's a film that's out there. Revolver, that's another one. Absolutely excellent film. I recommend it. Now I'm going to recommend you my favorite Eurocrime film. Yes, surprisingly, it's not Violent City, but that one really comes close. I'm going to have to blur the cover for this. I'm going to keep my finger on there. This is my personal favorite Eurocrime film of the genre. Almost Human, starring Tomas Milian, directed by genre specialist Umberto Lenzi. Okay, another great Ennio Morricone score in this one as well. The back is safe. Yeah, the back is safe. Obviously, there's tits on the front cover. I can't show you, but yeah, this one also with Henry Silva, who I talked about as a genre, recurring actor as well. And yeah, Almost Human. This is a absolutely fantastic film. It's my personal favorite of this genre. So um, I would say, check out Violent City first if you like that. Possibly consider Revolver, but definitely Almost Human is a must watch. So okay, those are just three recommendations right there. I have some more. This is another excellent film in the genre. I recommend another Umberto Lenzi film. He did a lot of the best ones for me. The Tough Ones, also known as Rome, Armed to the Teeth, and again Tomas Milian, a genre regular. Maurizio Merli, who did a lot of these films as well. He's another genre regular. Again, fantastic film, The Tough Ones, aka Rome Armed to the Teeth. And again, to show you the influence back to American films, what was the poster for this one when it was released in the US? Brutal Justice, and look at the tagline. I'm just gonna let that sink in. Yeah, obviously, taking inspiration from Clint Eastwood's Dirty Harry. There's the Italian artwork, Rome Armed to the Teeth. Yeah, again, fantastic film, and I recommend especially getting this particular release of it, which I do believe is still available. The Grindhouse releasing 3-disc set, which also features the CD soundtrack, which is not done by Ennio Morricone this time, but it's still a pretty cracking soundtrack. Audio commentary by Mike Malloy, who directed that fantastic Eurocrime documentary that I just mentioned. Yeah, fantastic film, fantastic release by Grindhouse. It's region free if you're wondering. It is a US label, but pretty much all the releases are region free, so you can play this anywhere in the world. It doesn't matter, region free. So yeah, then if you like them, and if you have your origins in spaghetti westerns like I had, that's sort of how I got into it, because a lot of the actors that were in spaghetti westerns crossed over into the Eurocrime genre, and that's how I got into it. I was like, hey, Franco Nero, Django, like the original Django, Franco Nero. He made a ton of these. Let's check it out. Tomas Milian, he's on tons of spaghetti westerns. I love him. Let's check out his Eurocrime films, what he's done after spaghetti westerns. Even Lee Van Cleef had his hand in Eurocrime films as well after the spaghetti westerns. So, if you like Franco Nero, if you like Django, there's two films of his I recommend, and these are directed by another fantastic Italian director, Enzo G. Castellari. And this one is Street Law from 1974. Yeah, 1974, starring Franco Nero and Barbara Bach. Yeah, Bond girl Barbara Bach is in this one. And this is pretty much a sort of take on Death Wish, believe it or not. And this is, by the way, the German title. I take it you already guessed. You can get this on the US Blu-ray and the UK Blu-ray, if I'm not mistaken. Someone will correct me down there in the comments if I'm wrong, but this is the German Blu-ray. Even though it's presented in DVD case, it is a Blu-ray. But this is one I recommend. Fantastic Enzo G. Castellari film. The main theme of this film, which again isn't Ennio Morricone for this one, I should add, but still a cracking soundtrack. The main theme for this was actually recycled and reused in a Dwayne the Rock the Johnson. Yeah, I'm gonna keep that blooper in a Dwayne the Rock Johnson film called Faster. In the opening scene of that film, they recycle the theme from this film. Another Enzo G. Castellari film, which now is released in Germany and in the UK, and I got the German one, because the German one is actually the full uncut version. Actually, they cut the UK version, which is a shame. High Crime, again, directed by Enzo G. Castellari, once again starring Franco Nero. Again, it's very Dirty Harry, Death Wish-esque. You can definitely feel the influence of those films. This one also stars Fernando Rey. Yeah, again, fantastic, high-octane action film. You will not be disappointed checking that out. And then the final recommendation is a director who I would be remiss if I didn't mention when talking about the Eurocrime genre. If we sort of compare this genre to the spaghetti westerns, you have your more intellectual directors, and your directors that are more sort of focused on violence and stuff. In the spaghetti western genre, I would attribute the brackets to Sergio Leone as a more intellectual and stylish filmmaker, and I would give the bracket of the more violent filmmaker and the filmmaker more interested in violence and stuff and more action driven. I would give that to Sergio Corbucci. In the Eurocrime genre, I would give the stylistic bracket to director Fernando Di Leo. And I would give the violent bracket, the more action-driven, to Umberto Lenzi. Now, Fernando De Leo is pretty much, by that comparison, the Sergio Leone of this genre. And he has done some absolutely cracking films in this genre. And Railroad Video here has done an amazing box set. Most of these films have been re-released on Blu-ray. This is still the old DVD set of it, but this still serves me well. Fernando De Leo. These are a couple of his films. I recommend at least 3 of them, to be fair. Let's come to a little booklet. Caliber 9, aka Milano Calibro 9, which is pretty much the first Fernando De Leo film. I do also have the Arrow Blu-ray of this one. Arrow Video has put out a Blu-ray of it, starring Gaston Mouchen and Barbara Boucher, and also German actor Mario Adorf, who has been in a lot of these Eurocrime films as well. Absolutely cracking film, highly violent, lots of nudity, like all these films. Nudity, these films, if I sum up the Eurocrime genre, right, in a sort of a couple of words summarization, just give it a couple of words to really sell it: sex, violence, action, high suspense, thrills. That's all you need. And believe me, plenty of sex and boobs and violence and just everything a real male film connoisseur would appreciate, let's put it that way. This is another cracking. This is probably my favorite, my personal favorite of the Fernando Di Leo films, The Italian Connection. It has a different title, but this is the one I know it by. With Henry Silva, there he is again, and also the great Woody Strode, who made a lot of Western and spaghetti Westerns. Again, another actor that crossed over. Also Adolfo Sali, who was in Thunderball. He was the Bond villain in that. And Mario Adorf, once again. Fantastic film. This has one of the best car chases I have ever seen. Not just a car chase, but it then escalates into a foot chase, and fantastic stuff. Absolutely love it. And then this is another one I recommend. Again, Henry Silva right there, The Boss. And Richard Conte, who was in The Godfather, again, taking it back to the American films that influenced it. They used actors from those films as well. But yeah, this one, yeah, Gianni Garco, spaghetti Western actor, also crossed over into the Eurocrimes. Yeah, again, Fernando Di Leo film, The Boss, fantastic film. Another absolute fantastic. And these are scores by Luis Enriquez Bacalov. At least this one is not on the Italian Connection, but I know for a fact, yeah, this one does. Caliber 9 also has a Luis Bacalov score. Luis Bacalov, you might remember, he did this score for Django. He's a great composer as well. And yeah, I would recommend this one since it comes in a set, but this is definitely my least favorite of the ones we just talked about. Rules of the City, Jack Palance. I think this is also known as Mr. Scarface, which is odd because Scarface wasn't released yet. That was 1983, but they could have been referencing Al Capone, whose nickname was Scarface, or they could have been referencing, of course, the 1932 Scarface film. But still, it's for me, it's interesting. It's called Mr. Scarface as well. But Rules of the City, again, it's a good film, but it's not my favorite of the Eurocrime films. Not my favorite of the Fernando Di Leo ones. So I guess that's all my recommendations. So again, we're just going to quickly do a recap. The Fernando Di Leo films, in particular, Caliber 9, and especially The Italian Connection and The Boss. Fantastic films, absolutely cracking. He's done more. He's also done a good film called Shoot First, Die Later. And these films, they have some great titles, don't they? High Crime, Enzo G. Castellari, starring Franco Nero. Street Law, starring Franco Nero, directed by Enzo G. Castellari. The Tough Ones, Umberto Lenzi, Tomas Milian, Maurizio Merli. Fantastic film. Gonna have to put my finger over it. Umberto Lenzi's Almost Human, starring Tomas Milian and Henry Silva. yeah, again, just absolutely fantastic film. And then the two Sergio Solima Eurocrime films, Violent City, which again I will say is the entry point that you guys must see to really. This should be your first, I'd say, because it was my first. To be fair, because I just love Charles Bronson, and actually when I first saw the film, I did not realize it was a Eurocrime. I only found that out later, but yeah, it definitely is. Yeah, and Revolver, again by the same director of this film, made a year or two after Revolver. Yeah, those are my Eurocrime recommendations. I really hope people are gonna come away from this video inspired to check out some of these films. I really hope they do. Again, this is a genre that's very near and dear to me. Um, to be really fair, if you love Dirty Harry, if you love The French Connection, if you love Bullet, if you love all those 70s gritty urban crime films, cop films, this genre will be right up your alley. I truly believe that. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed, and like I said, hope you guys will take away, some inspirational choices. I guess some inspiration for some more movies to watch. We can never watch enough movies, right? We all love movies. We love cinema, and it's never a bad thing to sort of broaden your horizon and check out some other films. Again, a little stack of movies that I recommend: Violent City, Revolver, Almost Human, The Tough Ones, Street Law, High Crime, and pretty much any film directed by Fernando Di Leo, but especially Caliber 9 and The Italian Connection. Those are fantastic. And The Boss, fantastic films. So yeah, the Eurocrime genre, it offers a lot of actors you might recognize from other Italian genres. It offers composers that you recognize from other genres, directors that you recognize from other genres. If you go to Umberto Lenzi, he's remembered a lot for, of course, a little-known film called Hannibal, Cannibal Holocaust, and the cannibal films and the really, really shocking sort of horror films he did as well. But he really made his bones in the early 70s with, at least five or six, if I remember off the top of my head, of these Eurocrime films. So yeah, a lot of people you might recognize. So if you're a fan of Italian filmmaking in the slightest, look at me, I'm talking with my hands. I'm like Italian over here. Kidding aside. But no, if you're interested in the slightest, the Eurocrime genre, I would say it's definitely up your alley. And if you watch Violent City and don't enjoy it, I would say you probably won't enjoy the rest of the genre. But Violent City is definitely, for me, I would say it's like an ideal entry point into this genre. So anyway, that's it for now. How do I always leave you? Thank you for watching. Stay safe and healthy and keep punching. And we will see you all in the next video. Take care.